Okay, so we'll start there with the 2015 Leaving Cert Ordinary Level Paper 2 question 6. So, mark 10 or more points in each of the scattered graphs below to show an example of each type of correlation named under each graph. So they want a positive correlation here. So they want us to give 10 or more points. If you want a positive correlation, it's going to look like that. And if it's going to be a strong positive correlation, you'd expect these to be tightly packed. So we'll just put them in like that, where they should be tightly packed either side, we could say more or less, of the line. Now, they didn't ask us to give a line of best fit, so we don't need to include that line. So I'll actually just rub out that line there. So like I said, you don't need to include that line, but you can see there that would represent a strong positive correlation. Okay, so we'll just move on to the next one. So the next one there asks for a strong negative correlation. And again, a strong negative correlation is going to be a negative line of best fit. So it would look like that. And again, you're going to have to put some points either side of that line. So I'll just put them in there so you can see. So it would be something that looks like this. And you can see that that's taking the shape of a negative correlation, or a negative slope, you could say. So that there just represents a strong negative correlation. The last one there asks for no correlation. And if there's no correlation, then we just need to make it look like this. So if we had one there, 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 and one there, and we'll say one there and one there, put in one or two odd ones here and there. So you can see there, that takes absolutely no line of best fit. So if I draw a line of best fit, that wouldn't fit, or this wouldn't fit. So it's very difficult to put a line of best fit to that. So because there's no line of best fit, that one there has absolutely no correlation. And this year, had you done that in the exam, you would have got 20 marks, which is a lot of marks, to be fair, for that question. Question B. A few days before the Scottish independence referendum in September 2014, YouGov poll estimated the support for the No campaign was 54%. If YouGov sampled 1,000 people, find the margin of error. Write your answer as a percentage correct to one decimal place. So we know what the margin of error is, because the margin of error, we deal with that the same every time. So to get the margin of error, and it's always equal to 1 over the square root of n. And when it's 1 over the square root of n, n always represents the sample size. Okay, so the margin of error in this case is going to be 1 over the square root of n, which is the sample size, and 1 over the square root of n in this case is 1 over the square root of 1,000. And if you type that into your calculator, you will get 0.031622 7766. Okay. They wanted us to give our answer as a percentage correct to one decimal place. So they wanted as a percentage and correct to one decimal place. So to write that as a percentage, we just multiply it by 100. So as a percentage, that would be equal to 3.162277766. And if I was going to do that to the nearest to one decimal place, we go back one, draw an imaginary line, and look at the number that follows. So my answer there would be 3.2. So we'll just move on there to part 2. So it says here to create a 95% confidence interval for the level of support for the No campaign in the population. Okay, so if we just go back and look at that again, it said that in the Scottish independence referendum in September 2014, the YouGov poll estimated that the support for the No campaign was 54%. Okay, Now, this was using a sample of 1,000 people, okay? So we were saying they reckon that 54% of the people are going to vote no. They want us to create a confidence interval, okay? So to do that, what we need to do is we need to take that percentage and we need to add 3.2 and we need to subtract 3.2, and those two values will determine the interval between which how confident we are with the actual referendum, right? So let's just take the sample proportion, and the sample proportion is 54%. So the sample proportion is 54%. So p hat is equal to 54%. And what we're going to do to that is we're going to add 3.2. So we're going to add the margin of error and we're going to subtract the margin of error. So how we're used to seeing this is p hat minus 1 over the square root of n, comma, p hat plus 1 over the square root of n. Okay, so that'll be 54 minus 3.2, comma, 54 plus 3.2. Okay, and that'll end up being 50.8 and 57.2. And that's our confidence interval there, right? So the answer there will be 50.8 and 57.2. And just so you're aware, sometimes they write this as 50.8 is less than or equal to the population, which is, more than or equal to the population, which is less than or equal to 57.2. And all that means is that the confidence interval, if you got 50.8, it would be correct. Anything between 50.8 and 57.2 is correct. Okay, so that's all the intervals actually telling us, that anything between 50.8 and 57.2 would be correct. And that year for those two parts, so for part 1 and part 2 in that question, there was only 5 marks allocated. Okay, which is a very small number of marks. Normally it would be worth 5 marks for each part. Okay, so normally there is 5 marks for the confidence interval and 5 marks for the margin of error. In this exam this year, there was only 5 marks going for that part of the question. Okay.